The air was cool and fresh as Lisa stepped off the plane. A gentle breeze touched her face, making her shiver just a little. She had traveled a long way, all the way to New Zealand, to visit her nephew, Jake. It had been many years since she last saw him. Once, he was just a little boy running around with messy hair and a big smile. Now, he was a grown man in his early 20s. Holding her suitcase tightly, she walked up to his house and knocked on the door, her heart beating fast. The door opened, and there he stood. He was taller than she remembered, his face sharper, but his eyes still held that same warmth. "Aunt Lisa," he said with a big grin before pulling her into a tight hug. In that moment, it felt like time had turned back, like nothing had changed between them. The house smelled of fresh coffee and warm books. As she settled on the couch, Jake made her a cup of tea, and they began talking about life. He told her about his job, how he worked long hours, and how some of his old friends had drifted away. His voice grew soft when he spoke about his dreams, how they once felt so clear, but now seemed blurry. "I feel stuck, Aunt Lisa," he admitted, staring at his hands. She looked at him with gentle eyes and said, "Jake, I remember when you were just a little boy, so fearless and full of dreams. That boy is still inside you." Jake smiled, but there was doubt in his eyes. As the days passed, Lisa noticed the small things about him, the way he listened so carefully, how he paid attention to every little detail. They cooked meals together, laughed over old memories, and talked late into the night. Slowly, the house felt warmer, not just from the fireplace but from the connection they shared. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, Jake turned to her and said, "You always believed in me, even when I didn't." Lisa smiled, her heart full. "You gave me reasons to," she replied. Her visit was supposed to be short, but each day, she found it harder to think about leaving. There was something comforting about being with Jake. But something else was growing too, something she didn't understand. Lisa noticed the way Jake looked at her sometimes, longer than before, softer. His words carried a warmth that made her feel safe. But she pushed those thoughts away. "This is silly," she told herself. "He's just my nephew, and that's all this is." But deep inside, her heart whispered something different. One night, Lisa sat alone in the living room, a book open on her lap, but her mind was elsewhere. Memories of their conversations, his smile, and the way he looked at her filled her thoughts. "Stop overthinking," she told herself. "This isn't real." But her heart kept racing whenever she was near him. The next morning, Lisa woke to the sound of dishes clinking in the kitchen. She walked in to see Jake making breakfast. "You didn't have to do this," she said, touched by his kindness. "I thought you could use a break," he replied, placing a plate in front of her. As they ate, he spoke about his struggles, his job, his loneliness, the feeling that he was never enough. Lisa reached for his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You're doing better than you think," she whispered. He looked at her, his eyes filled with something deep and unspoken. Over the next few days, they grew even closer. They walked along forest trails, shared childhood stories, and spent hours just being in each other's presence. One evening, as they watched a movie together, Jake leaned his head against her shoulder. Lisa froze, unsure of what to do. But she didn't move. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver down her spine. "I should get some sleep," she murmured as the movie ended. "Yeah," Jake said, his voice softer than usual. That night, Lisa lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts raced. "This isn't right," she told herself. "But why does it feel so?" She shook her head, trying to push away the feelings growing inside her. The next day, she tried to create distance, spending more time alone. But every time their eyes met, that same warmth returned, unspoken yet undeniable. One afternoon, she watched from the window as Jake worked in the garden, his sleeves rolled up, his face focused. She couldn't deny it anymore, she was drawn to him, and it scared her. She busied herself in the kitchen, hoping to distract her thoughts. But then, Jake walked in. "Tea?" he asked. "Yeah," she replied quickly. He stepped closer, his presence filling the space between them. "You've been quiet today," he said gently. "Just thinking," she murmured. "About what?" She forced a smile. "Nothing important." But Jake didn't move away. Instead, he reached out, his fingers brushing against her arm. I feel like I can tell you anything, he said softly. Her heart pounded. She stepped back, turning to pour the tea. I'm glad, she said, her voice shaky. I mean it, he continued. You've always been different. The way you understand me. I've missed that. Lisa knew she needed to break this moment. I'm going for a walk, she blurted and rushed outside. The cold air hit her face, but it wasn't enough to calm the storm inside her. Minutes later, Jake followed. I'm sorry, he said. If I made you uncomfortable, it's not that, she interrupted. I just need space. I get it, he said, stepping back. But having you here has meant more to me than you know. His words hung in the air. Lisa looked away. She knew she couldn't ignore what was happening, but she also knew she had to pretend it wasn't real. The next morning, she packed her bags. She had stayed long enough, and leaving now was the right thing to do. As she walked downstairs, Jake looked at her, his face unreadable. You're leaving? He asked quietly. I think it's best, she replied. You don't have to go. I do. Jake stood up, moving closer. If this is about, he hesitated. I didn't mean to make things hard for you. Lisa forced a smile. Jake, you don't need me. You just need to believe in yourself. He reached for her hand, and for a moment, she let him hold it. I'll miss you, he whispered. I'll miss you too. That afternoon, he drove her to the airport. They sat in silence, both lost in their thoughts. When they arrived, he helped her with her bag. You'll visit again, right? He asked. Of course, she smiled, but deep down, she wasn't sure when. As she walked away, she glanced back one last time. He stood there, watching her, hands in his pockets, his face soft yet unreadable. On the plane, Lisa stared out at the clouds. She knew she had made the right choice. Some feelings weren't meant to be followed. But even as she closed her eyes, she couldn't stop thinking about him. And she knew, no matter how much time passed, a small part of her heart would always remain in that quiet house, with the boy who once felt like family but somehow became something more. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and share.